So a woman's body opens when her nervous system relaxes. When she's in fight, flight from relational tension, her body closes and no amount of logic or pressure reopens it. This is an evolutionary thing, guys. Like, this is how she's wired.
Welcome to Reforged, a podcast by the Authentic Masculinity Project, a place where we have raw conversation about modern masculinity, capacity, complexity, integration, and authenticity.
Hey guys, welcome. My name is Scott Austin Martin, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I am a somatic processing trauma therapist, and most importantly, I am a proactive relationship transformation coach. Let's talk about the dead bedroom and what no one tells men about emotional disengagement. All right. So when men say dead bedroom, they think it's about sex. But here's the truth. It's about emotional disengagement. So a woman doesn't stop touching her man because she doesn't want sex. She stops because she doesn't feel safe, seen, or connected. And most men try to fix it the wrong way, which only pushes her further away. So let's get into some core insights on this. Okay. So insight number one, sex stops when safety stops. So physical intimacy is tied to emotional trust and connection. If she feels judged, unseen, or emotionally abandoned, her body shuts down. You know, one of the metaphors that I heard another counselor talk about this, and it was the porcupine example. It's like, if you think of two porcupines trying to have sex, and so the man porcupine's coming around behind, and he's basically trying to have sex, and her quills are up and kind of in his face, right? So what does he got to do? He's got to come back around, and he's got to, kind of rubber face, and kind of connect to that. So those quills will go down, and he goes back around. Nope, they're still there. He's got to come back around. And, this speaks to, the effort, the chase, the engagement, the courting that was and should be a part of traditional connection. We now have mental stimulus 24/7, like a slot machine on our phone, and it's distracting us, right? And the dopamine is a part of that, to where it's taking away our motivation. And if we don't have the motivation to, calm down the porcupine quills, then we're not understanding the system, the how that particular system works. And if you're a man that likes to work on things, then look at it that way. Like, there's a way for you to get this particular machinery, and thinking of a woman's system, our neural system, as a piece of machinery that you can bring presence to, just like you have to have, if you're out there mowing the lawn, you got to keep your hand on that, lever to make sure that it's engaged in automatic, forward. Well, it's very similar. You have to be present, right? So the insight number two is men often misdiagnose the problem. They chase, they beg. Chase and beg is not the same thing as court. They demand. Or, as we just talked about, they retreat into things like porn, where they're getting their dopamine hacked, right? I'll take care of it myself. Well, if you open a window or a door to the sacred space of the heart of the relationship, the energy will escape. So remember, creative energy, going and getting your neural system reset by watching porn is not the same thing as using that energy to connect to your wife. So this is not about morality. There is no judgment. People have heard me say this on and on and on, right? If you want to be a freak, you do you, boo. Like, you go get the rubber sheets, you fly that freak flag. But this is about motivation, about what your neural system is doing, what her neural system is doing, and you getting curiosity about what will work versus what will not work, and what can actually be next. So, misdiagnosing the problem, each of these, chase, beg, demand, or retreat into porn, each of these deepens the cycle of disengagement. Insight three, the nervous system drives desire. We've already kind of hinted at that. So a woman's body opens when her nervous system relaxes. When she's in fight, flight from relational tension, her body closes and no amount of logic or pressure reopens it. This is an evolutionary thing, guys. Like, this is how she's wired. So if she doesn't feel safe, and I actually like the three terms of, do you feel safe? Do you feel heard? Do you feel understood? When it comes to anything that we've got some sort of friction going on within the relationship, because those three words, put it on, a pillow, put it on a piece of artwork in the main room. Like, it's a great way to begin a conversation. It's a great way to end the conversation also, because if she, and sometimes you, right? If she does not feel safe, heard, understood, well, then number one, you haven't really, anything you don't discuss will never be addressed. You haven't really addressed what's going on there. So each of those deepen the cycle of disengagement. Insight three, the nervous system drives desire. Um, when she's in fight or flight from relational tension, her body closes and no amount of logic or pressure reopens it. Insight four, fixing the dead bedroom requires presence, not performance. And that's why presence is literally the second pillar. Path, understanding how you got to be the way you are, is our number one, but presence is the number two pillar. Why? Because it's something you have to practice. Why? Because the neurosystem, the brain, does what the brain is conditioned to do. So if your brain is conditioned because of how you were raised, or because of generational trauma, childhood trauma, past romantic relationship wounding, you've got defense mechanisms where you're checking out instead of checking in. Well, then you're not good at presence. You're not good at it. So if you want to be really, really good at something, what do? You practice it. So it requires presence, not performance. So not doing like, I don't know what to say. I've had this conversation. I need my sex. Maybe that's the story that's going on in you. I have a high libido. Okay, women have a higher libido than you think. Now, yes, there is a thing about spontaneous desire. There's a pattern in relationships we can talk about, and we will probably on another episode. But it's really much more about what is her neural system like. And I like this. I heard this from another coach once that said that if you just treat each other in the relationship as if you're 7 years old, because that's generally what our neural system is doing. And so you've got to, the fastest way to transform a relationship is to transform yourself. So if you are getting dysregulated into fight, flight, free, something along the lines where you're either checking out or you're trying to be toxic and force your way to get your needs met, well, there's a lot of things that you probably don't understand about you, let alone understand about her. But if you can't regulate yourself, then how could she possibly regulate herself to get to a place where she feels safe enough to open? If she's not safe, there's no Niagara Falls, right? It just doesn't happen. So fixing the dead bedroom requires presence. Men must learn to hold space and show up emotionally, bring safety back into the relationship. What does that mean? Well, it means that intimacy, emotional intimacy, is not always about the sex. And this is really, it's an interesting seesaw kind of effect where you can literally put your thumb on the scale here and you can make a difference. Go chat GPT or go Google, give me 10 questions that I can ask my wife or she can ask me that will engage us in a emotional intimacy conversation. And Gottman's love maps, go buy that. Shout out to the Gottmans, right? So go find questions that allow you to understand each other, right? Or to understand where each other came from. One of the questions in Gottman's love maps that I love that was really effective with my wife and I was, what's your favorite tree? And she answered that question while we were having lunch one day, basically taking 2 hours just to ask each other's questions and have fun with each other. She said, it's a mimosa tree, because my grandmother had a mimosa tree in her front lawn and I used to climb that tree. I'm like, oh, no way. My grandmother used to have a mimosa tree in her front lawn and I used to climb it. And so now we're driving around East Texas and we see those pink blossoms and we connect, we look at each other because of this one little weird question where we had something in a weird common kind of scenario. We even went to Hawaii once for a trip, and we stayed at one of these vacation clubs where the first night we didn't have an ocean view and we had to stay on, and then we got to move to the ocean view. And in the back of that, tropical garden, they had a giant exotic mimosa tree. It was like they had planted it there right for us, right? So like, it was a stupid question, but it created a connection because we knew it. going through questions about what you know about your spouse, even if it's stupid questions, is not a gotcha moment where you're like, see, you didn't know that. It's a, wow, I didn't know that. Or wow, yeah, I did know that, you know? And it's a way to kind of connect. Now, if you spend time doing that and you put weight on the emotional intimacy, you're going to see the need. Like what I'm talking about is I'm a rat in a cage and I have to have this to reset my system. This is why men go do porn, right? That need will actually come down. Why? Because it wasn't sex that you were actually looking for. You were actually looking for intimacy, and intimacy is not the same thing as intensity. And we've talked about this before. This is where men get really, really confused about things. I want to feel intense. Generally, if you're only looking for the intensity of sex, it means that you went through a childhood where chaos was kind of the norm. And so you're looking for that hit of love in a very specific way that reminds you of. So this is an opportunity to, number one, hear about this mechanism, to hear about this pattern, and to get curious about it and go, okay, if I'm in one of those moments where I really want to connect with her, but she's not open to the sexual connection that is apparently the only thing that I'm offering, right? Well, then how do I sit with myself, take 2 to 10 deep parasympathetic nervous system breaths, maybe learn how to tap, maybe there's so many different coping mechanisms, processing mechanisms, and to sit with that uncomfortability and get curious because you're having a defense reaction. And now you're going to go into a story of victimhood where you're going to blame her, and her neural system is going to feel that. So instead of doing that, let's go back and see how the bodies got in the water before we build a whole system of trying to, this is how we treat the problem by building hospitals and things. Let's go back and stop the body from getting in the water and master yourself, man. Master yourself and learn how to be more than a one-trick pony. What does it mean? Men need to learn how to be a little bit more complex. You don't get your emotional needs of intimacy only met through sex, right? Doesn't mean that you don't have a robust and healthy sex life, but you're learning how to create the atmosphere that makes that enjoyable for everybody. What do we call that? We call that boundaries. What do you want in your life? Well, for a woman, I want to be safe. Is that a boundary? Yeah, that's a boundary. Boundaries are how we love each other. And if she held to her boundaries, she would say, I do not want to be in a marriage where I don't feel safe or even not periodically feel safe. And then believe me, she's beating herself up on that because she's got all this equity in the relationship and she can't feel how to feel safe with you. She wants to. And she's tried to communicate that. But your neural system is something you haven't taken responsibility for. And it's not her responsibility to take responsibility for your neural system. It's yours. Your job is to protect her heart, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, financially, spiritually, in all ways. Does modern woman need you to provide for everything? No. In fact, a lot of women make more money than their men do now, right? No, it means that the little girl that's hiding underneath her heart wants to trust you in every single one of these categories. That's what it means. So the nervous system drives desire. A woman's body opens when her nervous system relaxes. All right, insight 4. Men must learn to hold space. We've gone through that. Okay, we're going to revisit over and over again AMP framework, path, presence, process, and strategy. Buy the AMP book. It looks like this right here. You can get it in electronic format or you can buy it on Amazon, either way in the Kindle format. And read about these different categories, these different pillars of how you do what, how you do the inner work. If you're living in a dead bedroom, the answer isn't porn, not from morality or a judgment base. I don't care about that. It's not from begging, and it's not from giving up and disconnecting and walking away or stonewalling or being defensive or being, having contempt and trying to make it her fault. The answer is learning how to reawaken intimacy through presence, not pressure. And that's exactly the work we do in Reforged, men's inner work groups. That's what you're going to read about in the book. That the Facebook group that you can go to basically get exposed to other men. If you're ready to reset your nervous system, face your shame and rebuild your connection and join us. Okay, guys, we will see you in the next session, next video. All my love. We'll see you then. Thank you for listening to Reforged. Remember to like and subscribe for more.